All right, welcome back everybody. Today I will be reviewing They Cloned Tyrone, the Netflix film. This is a sci-fi comedy thriller mystery. It's great. It's hilarious and has a message that's obvious, but not in a way that makes you feel icky. The movie was directed by Joel Taylor, who's done some other things, but I believe this is his biggest project to date. The movie kind of starts out right in the middle of everything. There's not really a intro into, okay, this is how this person lives their life and this person lives their life. It just kind of throws you in with a little kid who goes to involve himself in a drug deal, let's say. And he comes to give information about some rival dealers encroaching on Fontaine's territory. Fontaine is John Boyega's character, who we'll later find out has a clone named Tyrone. Hence the name of the movie, They Cloned Tyrone. So the movie follows the main trio of Fontaine, Yo-Yo, and Slick Charles. Jamie Foxx, he's amazing. And they basically find out that the town that they're in is a big giant experiment. There are underground tunnels and underground laboratories where people are watching them, constantly monitoring the people in the town and influencing them, putting things in their chicken and in their hair relaxers and in the music to influence their behavior and then to study that behavior. And they claim their goal is unity. We'll find out later that Tyrone, Fontaine, has a lot to do with the whole experiment process. His goal is to create unity kind of through eugenics. So in the beginning of the movie, like the first maybe 10 minutes, Fontaine gets killed, like point blank. The rival gang members catch him lacking and shoot him, and he's dead. And the next morning, he wakes up in bed and continues about his regular routine, as though nothing happened the previous night. And Slick Charles and Yo-Yo were both witnesses of his death. So when he comes to Slick Charles to collect money, Slick Charles is like, I literally watched you die last night. What is going on? Which leads into the whole discovery of the underground lab. They chase who they think is his killer or attacker, because obviously he doesn't believe he's dead, because he's there. And they end up finding an elevator down to a laboratory where a white man with what looks like a jerry curl is dancing to Michael Jackson in a laboratory as he's mixing things and doing his experiments and so on. And through a series of many other unfortunate events, they uncover the plot of this network of people trying to experiment on them and control them. A town primarily full of Black people. So it comes to a point where they're threatened. These people send someone with a hitman clone version of Fontaine to basically tell them to leave things as they are, let them continue their experiments and so on, or they'll be killed and replaced. And with memories wiped, they'll know nothing, they'll be none the wiser. So Slick Charles and Fontaine kind of like let it lie for a little bit. But Yo-Yo doesn't. She wants to be a journalist. She's like a dog with a bone. She's got this story and she's not going to let it go until she sends it far and wide and lets people know what's happening in this town. So she gets kidnapped, and that draws Slick Charles and Fontaine back in. So they concoct this plan, get most of the town on their side, the Glen, to go down into these labs and take it over, basically destroy the operation. And it kind of succeeds. So Fontaine goes down and meets the old version of him, who we're led to believe is the original, the person from whom the clones came. He has this very weird, low-key self-hating view on what he's doing and the experiments. Like the bigger organization, their goal is to figure out how to manipulate behavior in order to create unity. They're like, okay, well, if we can influence behavior and like certain songs get people to fight, certain songs get people to reconcile, like we can control behavior in a way that we can keep peace, basically. The reason that they allow things like the drug dealers to continue to be a part of the community is because it keeps the outward eyes away from it, you know? If there's still problems going on, no gentrification will happen. So outside eyes, prying eyes will leave the town alone and let them continue their experiments. However, the original Fontaine, his goal is basically to breed clones in people in a way that makes people white, basically. So there comes the point where Fontaine is looking at a case full of cloned men, and it's basically different shades of the same man from black to white. So the man that it's kind of indicated that the man that they saw when they first found the laboratory with the white man with the Jerry curl was a black man, or his original was potentially a black man who was then cloned, bred, eugenics into being a white man, but kept the Jerry curl. It's crazy. Like, this movie's crazy. It's great. But they handle that. They win. And at the end, when the clones are all released, in LA, we see a group of people watching the news, seeing what's going on, and a clone of Fontaine comes out of the lab. One of the people in the group watching is Fontaine, except his name is Tyrone. And we ended there. So, characters and acting. The actors killed it. Jamie Foxx is gold in everything he's in. John Boyega, like, you wouldn't think that this is the man who played Finn in Star Wars. You know, like, he got big. It became a household name through Star Wars. You wouldn't think that at all. He's a completely different person. It's great. Teyonah Parris is amazing. There's so many fun moments that you can tell are ad-libbed, especially between Yo-Yo and Slick Charles, Tiana and Jamie. So great, so fun to watch. The characters all felt full and like they had real lives. They aren't just caricatures of people, but they use the stereotypes, like Slick Charles is a pimp, Tiana is a woman of the night, Fontaine is a drug dealer, but they're not limited to that. Yo-Yo has aspirations of being a journalist, and she is trying to get out of the life that she's in. Slick Charles has a heart, you know? He's not just like using people just to use people. He's got a heart. There's a real person in there. And Fontaine is recognizing throughout the course of the movie, recognizing how he has played a role in shaping the way the community operates because of him being a drug dealer, and like I said, the organization using that as a way to continue doing the experiments. So he kind of grows from that, and at the end they decide to go off, you know, together to a different place. We find out the organization has more little hotspots like this around the country, one of which is in LA, obviously. Put two and two together. So they go off and they're like, maybe we'll stop another one, you know. He comes out of the movie with on an upswing. I will say the background characters felt like NPCs. There wasn't much to them, but I think that was the point, especially because the whole point of the plot is like these people are being controlled, basically mind controlled, and they're clones, a lot of them. So it would make sense that they're kind of just there. They're just people to populate the space rather than being full characters with fleshed out storylines. I think my favorite character, as much as I want to say, I love Jamie Foxx. I think he's my favorite actor. So as much as I want to say my favorite character is Slick Charles, I think it's Yo-Yo. And I still might be biased because I love Teyonah Parris, but she's an excellent actress and Yo-Yo is an amazing character. So I think Yo-Yo is my favorite. I also might be biased because I'm a journalist in my own right. And I'm like, oh, you know, little connections. Anyway, plot-wise, the story was like, it was kind of The Truman Show, it's kind of Get Out, it's kind of Shutter Island. Like there's little elements of other movies, so it feels familiar, even though, like I said, we kind of are dumped in the middle of a story and are trying to figure out what's happening in the first half of the movie, first quarter of the movie, I'd say. But it's really well done. Those other movies that it kind of draws from or is similar to kind of help ground you throughout the watching experience. So even though you might not understand exactly what's going on in the beginning, you're comfortable enough to continue watching. It's not one of those where it's like, I don't know what's happening, this is boring and a waste of my time. It's you're intrigued. You have a foundation of like, okay, I've seen something like this, so let me see how it plays out, kind of thing. I don't think the mystery is too hard to figure out once they like revealed the lab. At that point, it's kind of like you're expecting what's coming. You may not necessarily expect things to happen to the extent of what happens because it kind of gets crazy, but that's not at all a detriment to the movie. It wasn't disappointing at all. It, again, I think helped kind of ground you amidst all of the like, what's happening? Kind of the mystery itself was another element that's like, all right, I can follow this. Felt kind of short, like we were kind of in and out, but I don't think that it needed to be any longer. This movie didn't need to be any longer. However, I would like to see like a limited series. I don't know if a sequel necessarily would be what I want to see from this world, but I think a limited series or even an anthology series, seeing snippets from the different hotspots like the Glen where this is happening would be really, really fun. I don't necessarily need to follow these characters anymore, I don't think. I think where they left off, I'm kind of cool with. Again, I feel like their character arcs are pretty solidly wrapped up, but I would like to see how the other places in the country would kind of react to the information now that it's been national news. At the end of this movie, it was made national news. So it'd be interesting to see how that changes the modus operandi of the organization, and if any other spots are able to overcome the situation or if they kind of just ignore it. I think that'd be interesting to follow in a follow-up like series. Again, this is another movie with some social commentary, so it kind of calls back to things like the Tuskegee experiments, where Black people are being experimented on against their will, without their knowledge, kind of thing. There's also some commentary on kind of marketing and how things are marketed to and within Black and other minority communities. There's an ad for like I mentioned, the chicken. They're using the chicken to basically make people happy and agreeable. Every time a TV is on, I believe it's every time the TV is on in the movie, an ad comes up for this chicken restaurant, and it's like blaxploitation kind of feel to it. Whereas there's all Black people in the ads, but stereotypes go over the top. The AAV kind of goes over the top in the ad, but everybody in the show is like, dang, I need to give me some chicken. So it kind of gives an example of how marketing has been pointed, the way that marketing has been used in the Black community, what people think draws us in, and maybe it does, but it's just an interesting, I thought, commentary on the use of marketing and marketing to minority communities specifically, as opposed to like it just being a product that's widely marketed. This was very targeted. There are some maybe less egregious examples of marketing similar to that in real life. So I found that very interesting. I appreciated that little touch. The way that we as minorities and Black people are represented in marketing and in media has an effect on like cycles of behavioral patterns, like was shown in the movie. But that actually does happen. Like the way that we're represented and the way that things are marketed to us kind of creates a cyclical system. And then obviously, again, commentary on unity and how for a lot of people, especially in the United States, unity comes from people thinking or being like one another. I think in the US, we are struggling now, even with acknowledging and celebrating differences amongst people. We don't have to be the same to be unified. And there is a strange, like, national identity that is supposed to come out on top overall. You know, if you're an American, there's a certain American way to be. I don't think that's true. And I think this movie has something to say on that fact. The movie kind of commented on the browning of America, and obviously eugenics, and involved with it the opposite way. It being a Black man who's preaching that in the movie. I think that there's likely an argument to be made that people of BIPOC ethnicity, racial background, are becoming more white with interracial marriages, and specifically white and minority interracial marriages. So how, you know, eugenics is like, okay, we're gonna make everybody white, blue eyes, blonde hair, that whole thing. And now because of interracial marriages, a lot of people are a little more brown. I think this movie kind of tackles it from the side of the BIPOC community, being like, okay, well, our children are getting lighter, you know? It's an interesting discussion. I don't know where I fall in that discussion, but I think that the movie kind of touches on that a little bit as well. As for the visual imagery, I love the color work in the movie. All of the characters are kind of color coded. They all have their own little palette that they kind of stick with. Fontaine is green, Yo-Yo is yellow, orange, and Slick Charles is kind of purple, reddish. So it's really fun to watch them interact with the world, and there are scenes where the backgrounds are kind of plain, which allows them to stand out even more, which has a certain irony when you figure out that at least two of them are clones, Slick Charles and Fontaine. It's an interesting visual tool that they used, and I just personally love color in movies, and especially when it's related to characters and characters being dressed in certain colors, because, you know, color theory. This character is dressed in blue because they're sad. This character is dressed in yellow because they're, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. I really love that. So it was cool to see the characters kind of being color-coded and interacting with the world that wasn't always as colorful as they were. Overall, I would say the movie's I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10, maybe an 8.5. I really enjoyed it. It was a really fun movie to watch. It's the kind of movie that I could see being taught in classrooms. I took the class was called Screening Race and Ethnicity, and we used Watchmen, the TV show, to kind of talk about how race is represented in media. And I can see this being used as that kind of thing. There's so many different topics that it covers in terms of social commentary. Definitely a movie that scholars are continuing to dig through. Film studies students are continuing to dig through for years to come. But I definitely recommend watching it. It's a very enjoyable movie, very funny movie. It's not a hard watch, so if you want to just, you know, put something on to laugh and have fun and you know, maybe start some conversations, think a little bit if you want to, it's there for you. Thank you for watching this video. Let me know in the comments if you've seen this movie, if you have any opinions on the social commentary that I brought up, if you think there's anything else in the movie that I missed, not just social commentary related, but anything visually, anything with the plot and the characters, I'd love to hear it. I will be doing movie reviews every week, so please continue to come back and watch. Again, like, comment, and subscribe for the YouTube algorithm. It would be much appreciated. Thank you again for watching this video, and I'll see you next week.